Hi, this is the first tape for the Maxsheva test on May 2nd, Thursday, May 2nd. This is the Thursday after Pesach. And I urge you that to study for this test. The same material will also appear on the Bagrut. So if you're doing well on this test, you're well on your way to doing well on the Bagrut as well. The way to watch this tape is to watch it and to take notes on it so that at the end of the day, you're left with like a sheet, one side, two-sided of the main topics, which are covered both in class and on these tapes. The idea is to make it as easy as possible for you. Okay, we started with Emunah Gula number one, which is the first time we find the term Emunah in the Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Abraham Avinu that you're going to have a child. Suk Daled, V'nei Dvar Hashem Be'lav Le'mor, Lo Yirash Chazeh, that your Eved is not going to be, your servant is not going to be the one who's going to inherit your wealth and your mission in life, but rather it's going to be someone who you are going to father. In the pasuk, Kodesh Baruch Hu says to Abraham, "Go and look to the skies, and count the stars. And you can't even possibly count them." And Hashem says to Abraham, that's as many children as going to have. And pasuk Vav, which is the main pasuk that we're dealing with, vehemin bashem. Then again, if you look at the English, he believed in the Lord, and he accounted it to him as righteousness. So here Rashi tells us is that was vehemin bashem, lo sha'alo otalzot, that Abraham just took God on his word. Hashem said he's going to have a child. He didn't ask for any signs, any symbols, any this, any that. He just believed what God said. And at the end of the pasuk, "Vayachshavel lo tzedakah, Hakadosh Baruch Hu chishva la'Avraham l'schut l'tzedakah al emunah she'amin bo." The Hakadosh Baruch Hu considered it, oh wow, Abraham believes in me. I tell him something, he believes in me. That is a schut. That is something which is so great about Abraham Avinu. So that's the way Rashi understands the pasuk, that Avraham believed in God, and Hashem considered it to be tzedakah, an act of righteousness, the fact that Avraham believed in God. The Ramban asks, wait a second, Ve'ni mevin, I don't get this. What's this great thing that Abraham did, that he believes in God? Lama lo yamit? You can imagine, God comes to you in a dream and tells you something. Of course you're going to believe him. What was the big deal that Avraham Avinu goes ahead and he believes what God says. So the Ramban takes it for granted that a person should just believe in God created the world. Of course, God comes and tells you he's not going to do it. So how does he understand the pasuk? So I have an alternate interpretation of the pasuk, which is given by the Chizkuni. He says as follows: "V'achshavel lo sakah, Avraham chashav lo la'atzmo she'en hakadosh baruch hu noten lo b'schuto zera el tzedakah oselo." Which means as follows: Ve'min Bashem, that he believed in God, but that, of course, he would. Abraham thought that God was doing something over and above. Not that the way Rashi interpreted it, that Hashem thought Abraham was great for believing in God. Ramban says, of course, he believed in God. But is that Abraham considered what Hashem did as tzedakah, as righteousness, that God was giving him a child, which he thought was a great gift. So Rosh Hashanah now expounds, says, emunah ba, when you believe in somebody, and then a rak emunah unit bitul da'atenu b'nei da'ato shel acher. When we say emunah, it just doesn't mean that I sort of like, okay, I believe him. Someone says something, I believe him. Because I believe him. Someone tells me today is Wednesday, and it is Wednesday, I believe him. But what elazu mashmud min b'Hashem? What does min b'Hashem mean? L'smoch et yisedotenu b'Hashem, to go ahead and to totally rely upon HaKadosh Baruch Hu. L'smoch alav b'iyun uv'ma'aseh, to rely upon HaKadosh Baruch Hu in terms of our thoughts and in terms of our actions. L'schazek bo v'l'lachet acharav, to become strengthened by HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to follow him. So emunah is not simply, oh, he believed God. God said this is going to happen. He believed them. But emunah is to have total reliance, total reliance upon HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So here it is in English. Belief is not just an intellectual belief that one suspends their opinion because of someone else's opinion. The real meaning of emunah is to anchor our lives to Hashem. to rely upon him in thought and in deed, and to gain our strength from him and to walk after him. Okay, we then go to page 2. Let's get this. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, you need page 2. Let me just share it with you. Yeah, here we go. Okay, now you can see this. So the question is, how do we get there? How do we get to a state where we have this total reliance on Kadosh Baruch Hu? Do we try to figure it out? Or it is just something which we have to train ourselves in some other way to believe in God? Do we have to go ahead and learn in what we call in a rational way? Or is something that we're supposed to go ahead and supposed to feel? So we learned 3 shitot here. We learned 3 opinions here. And I'm going to go, even though it says Kuzari first, I'm going to go to Rav Nachman Bezel first. He says as follows: that the way we're really supposed to go ahead and worship Hashem is just what he calls emunat mima, just to believe. Believe, not that I have to understand and learn philosophy or anything else like that. All I have to do is open up my eyes and I see that the world was created, and I know that I have to believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I have to go ahead and do the mitzvot. When I do the mitzvot, I will acquire a deep belief in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's not something that I have to go ahead, or should I even study. It says, Yesh mechkarim. You have people that are investigators, intellectuals. And that the main thing is to use science and other sorts of methods. When it comes to us, the way we get to where we have to go, we just do the mitzvot. By doing the mitzvot, you have inherently within you a connection, a spiritual connection to God. We should not go ahead and try to figure it out. That's not what we're supposed to go ahead and do. It is, in most cases, beyond us. And so he has this idea of emunah tmima. Okay. Comes the question is, according to the Bezel Rav, there's a phrase in Pirkei Avot, Damal Asher V'Apikaros, that one of the things we're supposed to do is know how to answer the heretic. If there's a non-believer is posing questions to us, we have to know the answers. That says the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot. If I'm not going to learn anything about him, I'm not just going to believe, how am I going to go ahead and understand Damal Asher V'Apikaros? How I'm going to answer the Apikaros? So what he understands, the Bezel Rav understand, is that a big tzaddik who really is totally 100% aboard is emunah, that he should go and learn what the others are saying in order to answer the apikaros, in order to answer the heretic. It is not up to the individual, the regular rank and file Jew, to be able to know what to answer the apikaros. So that is the shita of the Bezel Rav. Rav Sa'ad Gaon and says something totally different. He says that it's extremely, extremely important to understand your emunah, to understand it, what we call in a rational way. He's a rationalist. Everything makes sense. And therefore, if I go and I hit the books and I really, really, really learn, I'm going to be able to figure it out. I'm going to be able to come to the conclusion of the existence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the importance of Shmirat HaMitzvot. So he says as follows, and again, you can follow along the English, I'm reading the Hebrew. Some people think that there is a contradiction between science and faith, because science demands rigor, science demands exactness, and faith, we talk about it. Says, that's a very, very, very big mistake, says Rav Sa'ad Gaon. Not only does the Torah allow you to go ahead and use scientific methods to understand science, but rather we should use science and the scientific method in order to understand the world, because that will strengthen our emunah. So he says that really what I can do, and if I study and I astute and I learn, I'm going to come to emunah. But one very important thing. Masha Torah Oseret, what does the Torah does not allow? I'm just going to start willy-nilly reading all sorts of philosophy books without any guardrails to give me guidance. That's not going to work. The Navi is there to give me guidance in terms of how should I approach HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because if I don't going to go ahead, I'm not going to use any divine Nevi'im, I'm just going to get totally enmeshed in all sorts of different philosophical arguments. And I'm not going to come to any conclusion until I'm 60, 70, 80 years old. And then I miss the boat. So that we have these guardrails which are put in by the Nevi'im, which tell us the correct approach to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, set us on the right way. And then we should use our brains, our rationality in order to go ahead and understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So he said the question, Sheila, the question is going to be, if I can do this all just with my intellect, so why do we need the VM for? We'd get to the correct conclusion. And that's what he answers, what I mentioned before. You could get there rationally. You could get to emet, truth, just using your rational abilities. Take a long time. You hold across Hamon, so you open derech, and you got a lot of mistakes in a lot of places you shouldn't be along the way, and you may never recover. So therefore, kibalno ta'emet be'ezrat Torah. We got the emet, even though I can figure it out. The Torah gives it to me so that I have a direction. Once we have those guardrails, then I can go ahead and I can try to understand why the Torah tells me this, why Kadosh Baruch Hu told me that, etc., etc. But I need the starting point of the Torah. The first shita, the first opinion, is that of Rabbi Yehuda Levi and the Kuzari. And he says, really, the best is if I just have this natural faith, without any sort of investigations and arguments, etc., etc. Anybody who's mitchakem has to do more investigations is on a lower level. But but the person who can't get that emunah pshuta, it's not working for him. He has all sorts of doubts. Then he should use philosophy and his rational abilities in order to strengthen his emunah. So basically, we have three shitot. We have the Breslev of Rav, we have Sachigon, and Rav Yehuda Levi says, well, the Breslev of Rav is really the Lechatchila, is really the best. But he understands that not everybody's just going to get there like that, and therefore we should go ahead and we should study Emunah. Okay, so the next thing that we did is sheet number 3, which we'll get to right over here. This is sheet number 2, wrong one. Let's get sheet number 3. Sorry for the delay. This should be it. Just kidding. And Pam Shlishi Lida. This must be it. No. Where'd they put it? Oh, here. Ah, okay. Here we go. Had a little break. Next we learned was the Ramchal. Rav Moshe Chaim Luzuto, who is the author of the Mesilat Yesharim, the Path of the Just. And he goes and he starts off as saying, Hadvarim shebechibur shali and dvarim you do immovable for samim. Everything I wrote, everybody knows already. But yet, even though everybody knows it, I'm not telling you anything new of my sefer. A person has to go over it. A person has to remind himself of it. Sometimes they're very obvious things which we put in the back of our minds, which is not in front of us, even though we understand the correctness of it. Number 2, it says, therefore I'm writing a sefer about learning about the fear of God, to be in awe of God, and on the way that a person has to be mefatech, develop his own midot, his own attributes, in order to become a very human being. Everybody understands these are like extremely important things. Avol b'chayei hayom yom, but in the everyday, hachachamim asukim dvarim acharim. They'll say that. Apparently, Talmidei Chachamim put this in the back. They put this in the back. They don't really go ahead and they don't really bother with it because they're busy with other things. So who's talking about emunah and this pituach hamidot, the development of personality? Hatibshim, people that are not as bright, who are unable to deal with very deep ideas. Becomes of this, everybody loses. The chachamim lose, because they're not really developing their midot, their attributes. So a person thinks in order to be chassid, I just have to go ahead and just deny myself things. And that's not what it's about at all. You have to understand it much better. And the tipshim, the people that are unable and they're studying emunah, but they really can't, they don't really get it. So therefore, he goes ahead and it decides to write a sefer dedicated to these ideas because he thought people were ignoring it. So I'm reading for number 3, and I think we have the English after down here. No, so I'll just explain it in English. But the truth is, it's very important to spend time understanding the relationship of war that you need with God and how to develop as a human being, for a number of reasons. And know these 3 reasons. 1, Aleph. A person has to really be mashkiach, have to invest himself in terms of becoming a better human being. That even though a person naturally has certain attributes and they're kind and they're generous and everything else, but in order to develop it, a person really has to learn about it and really has to think about it as ways of developing it. Number 2, in Yanei Midot, the idea of personal attributes, Yirat Hashem, Vavat Hashem, and also to be in awe of God and to love God, Elu advarim hachashuvim biyoter b'chayei adam. These are the most important things in life. Therefore, we can't just put it in the back seat and say it's not important. We have to go ahead and we have to pay attention to these ideas day in and day out. A person should not push aside to spending time on developing of character and of their awe of God, because otherwise you're just not going to properly develop these things. Gimel, lots of stuff takes us away from proper Yirat Hashem and proper human behavior. A lot of other things in this world. By daily limud yom yomi, and if you learn about it every single day, Adam yitkaber al hadvarim marchikim is going to help the person be able to conquer those things which otherwise make you far away from relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and far away from developing yourself as a human being. Okay, that's the end of tape 1. Bye-bye.